If your n8n canvas ever ends up looking like this, then you're probably using way too many nodes. After building automations for myself and real clients, I realized something. 90% of the work runs on the same small set of nodes. As of December 2025, there are over 1,000 official n8n nodes and almost 5,000 community nodes. But the good news is you don't need to learn every single one of them to master n8n. You only need around 15 core nodes to automate 90% of the work you do. So in this video I'll show you exactly which ones they are. We are going to group them into 5 simple buckets, and then we'll use only those nodes to build this, an AI-powered lead intake system that first of all checks if the lead already exists in our database, asks the LLM to do some research on the lead and score it, and logs everything into Google Sheets. By the end you'll have a workflow you can import, tweak, and then ship to a real client. So we have 5 core categories here. First one is triggers, then data transformation, flow control, connectivity and storage, and AI and LLMs. So let's have a look at the triggers first. So triggers are what wake up your workflow. Without a trigger, your workflow just sits there doing nothing. But triggers listen for something, like a click of a button, a time, a webhook, or a form submission, and then tell n8n, run this automation now. So every flow needs some sort of a trigger. So the manual trigger is your testing button. So use it when you are building, but I wouldn't recommend to use it for production. So let's just quickly drop one on the canvas. Let's type in manual trigger. Here it is. And when you first click on it, there is no data. But the cool thing is you can set up mock data. Or you can just go to the top right corner and click on this pencil. So here we have the default data. So we can see that we have the name, code, first item, second item. So not much of information, of course. But what we can do, we can generate JSON using LLMs, like ChatGPT, for example. So I've just generated something quick for us to have a look at. So we can replace this JSON code with our new piece of code. And then we press on Save button in the top right corner. And here we are, we have our data as the output. This data has been pinned, meaning that we can reuse the same data multiple times further down the line in our workflow, which is super cool. Also pay attention that our output now has multiple fields like name, email, age. So some of them are text fields or strings, some of them are numerical, Boolean, true or false, and so on and so forth. So we're gonna have a look at the data types shortly. You have multiple view options. If you go to the top right corner, you have the JSON view, which I currently have, but you can also view the data in the table. The schedule trigger is for recurring tasks. So think of it as your Monday morning reports. So I actually have a very quick example to show you. So what we have here is a very basic daily AI and n8n news fetcher flow, which essentially checks Google for new articles every morning at 7 o'clock. And then if there are new articles found, it's gonna save them in my database. So this particular trigger is set to run at 7 a.m. every morning. But obviously, depending on your use case, you can change the interval to whatever is more appropriate for you. So certain triggers can be run every few seconds, but if it's just a weekly report, it can be run once in a week. If it's a monthly report, of course, you change it to months. And that's the schedule trigger. The webhook is the most important one. It lets other apps like your website or Typeform push data into n8n instantly. For example, I have this Join the Automation Orbit School waitlist page/form, which is currently connected to a webhook. By the way, this is still the case, you can still join my waitlist. The first 50 people are gonna get access for free. There are still a few spaces left, so feel free to join. So I just want to demonstrate how the webhook works here. So we just put your name, let's say, it's gonna be me, my email address. Once I press Get Early Access, post HTTP request will be sent to our webhook, and all this data will be traveling to our n8n. So let's just press on it and see how it works. Go back to n8n. In here, we have our webhook, which is configured the following way. We have the HTTP method post. I set the path to something more meaningful because usually it's just a random combination of digits. So what happens, the form actually sends the HTTP request to this webhook. If we're gonna go to the executions, we're gonna see some outputs. So we have our webhook, which was triggered by the post request. And here we have our data, name and email address. So when you don't have a front end, a web page, an app, for example, but we still would like to get some data inside n8n, what we can do, we can simulate this data into the webhook using Postman. If you haven't used Postman before, what it does essentially, it allows you to send post or get requests. Let's make sure our webhook is configured correctly. So we have our test URL, the HTTP method set to post, which is correct. So we change the path to lead intake demo. So I put respond immediately. We can just press listen for test event and then go to Postman. So I actually have the body and headers ready. I'm going to be posting it to this URL over here. So all I do, I just press send, check the status. We can see it's 200, so which is cool, meaning that everything went fine. We go back to our webhook and we can see that the data is here. And from here, we can start building our workflow. So we have our name, email, company, consent, all this data, what we wanted. That's in a nutshell how the webhook works. And finally, the on-form submission trigger. So if you don't have a website or you are not familiar with Postman, n8n can actually host a simple form for you to collect the data. And this is super useful. Let's have a look. So let's open on-form submission trigger. So I'm gonna go to triggers and then click on on-form submission over here. And this is how it looks blank. So we have the test URL, the production URL, we can give a title to our form, and then we can add different elements to it. So the field names, the data types. Actually, in order to save us a bit of time, I've decided to set it up separately. And here it is, our on-form submission. Let's click on it. So in here we have a number of fields like the title of a form, the description, and also a number of fields within the form which we'll need to fill in. So let's just execute this step. The new pop-up window appears. Our form is ready. Let's just fill it in. We have different data types here, text fields or the strings, arrays, which we're gonna cover in a bit. And also we have an object, so we can attach a file here. So let's do that. And then just click submit. So the form has been successfully submitted and it should appear on the right-hand side. Yeah, so we have all the data on the right-hand side in our output as expected. We can go back, press P to pin it, and you can see the small pin appeared in the bottom right corner, meaning that this data can be reused by us further down the line. Next is data transformation. So this is where 80% of work happens. And the first node we're going to be talking about is the set or edit fields. Edit fields is for cleaning up data, use it for rename variables or remove clutter. So let's just drag it to our canvas like so. And what you notice is there's nothing. There is no input data, there is nothing to edit. So of course we can create new fields, but the best thing to do is to actually connect our on-form submission to the edit fields. And now if you click on it, so we can see that the data appeared on the left hand side. So we have our input data, which we can manipulate. So let's fast forward a bit. Inside set edit fields, we can do a number of things here. We can rename our fields, we can add new fields, or we can drop some. We can change the data types as well. As you remember, on the left hand side we have our inputs, which are coming from the on-form submission. And as you can see, the fields are coming with capital letters. The first thing I did, I changed the field names. I put everything in lowercase. So just for demonstration purposes, I created a new field here called lead score. So the baseline is 10 points, and if a person leaves additional information like company name, if they are interested in one of our services, additional points get added to their score. Most of the fields on the left are in text. So by adding the lead score, we edit in numerical data, so we can change that as well if you want to. So also we added a Boolean data type here, true or false. We have an array, which is essentially a list of different items within one field. And as you can see, we added some additional data types. So previously it was predominantly just strings or text. Now we have numbers, booleans, arrays, objects, binary, which is an attachment. I also like to group all contact information under a single contact object, and we can see it on the right hand side. So under the contact object, we have first name, email, and the company now. So this keeps the top level clean for CRM or APIs that expect nested data. This is honestly one of my favorite nodes, and I use it all the time. So filter acts like a bouncer. It just lets certain data pass if the condition is fulfilled. So let's say you would like to filter out all the emails which contain gmail.com, for example, you can say only pass the data which contains @gmail.com. Or in my case, I would like to proceed with the leads whose lead score is over 45, for example, like over here. So let's execute this step. We can see that this condition is actually true. So our lead score is 50 and we want it to go over 45. So that's why we kept this item as the true condition. So you can swap this condition for anything like high lead scores, certain countries, specific tags, but the idea is always the same. Filter keeps only the data you actually want to process. n8n mostly no code, but sooner or later you're gonna hit a weird rule or edge case that the built-in nodes can't handle. Code is your Swiss Army knife. Instead of chaining 10 different nodes, you drop a single code node and tell exactly how to transform your data. So if you know a bit of JavaScript, that's great. If not, you can just use LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude to write code for you. Split out breaks a list of items into individual items, so you can process them one by one. So in our example, we have 4 different services: AI strategy, automation builds, reporting and dashboards, and training. So now I can send each selected service to a different system, create separate tasks, log them into a CRM, all thanks to split out node. So split out explodes a one list into many items so we can work on them one by one, and aggregate does the opposite, so it bundles items back together into a list, like for weekly digest email. So let's press it. After the split out, we had 4 separate services. Now all the services are grouped into a single field named services. So I use it when I want a summary or digest, like give me all the leads from today in one object for an email or Slack message. That can be quite useful. And merge. Merge combines data from 2 different branches, and it's crucial if you're looking up data in a spreadsheet and want to attach certain data to, let's say, your incoming lead. So we're going to have a quick look at the merge node in a moment. The third category, flow control. Switch is your decision gate for each item. So it checks one field or expression like lead score or status, and then routes that item down the matching branch. So the wait node is a simple one, it just adds a delay. So this is vital for humanizing the automations, and I wouldn't recommend sending emails 1 second after a form fill. Even though I think I do it for my school community, just wait for 5 minutes so it feels more personal. It poses an item for a specific duration, so before letting the workflow continue. So that's essential for scheduled follow-ups, for example. Fourth category is connectivity and storage. So Google Sheets is actually the database for 90% of small businesses. So this is where you quickly store, update, or review your data in a simple spreadsheet. But the king of n8n is of course the HTTP request node. So this lets you to talk to any service on the internet that has an API. So even if n8n doesn't have a dedicated node for it, if you master this one, you can automate pretty much anything. So in other words, the HTTP request is just n8n's universal adapter. It lets your workflow send and receive data over the web using URLs and methods like get and post. Let's just open it and we can see that there are a number of methods. You have a URL as well to set. So trust me, it's not too difficult to master at all. So once you understand the HTTP request, you are no longer limited by any node list. You can integrate pretty much any app or service yourself. And finally, AI and LLMs. So this is the engine behind all the smart behavior. So on the left hand side, we have message and model with OpenAI, which is kind of my default. It's stable, it's well documented, and it's perfect for 80 to 90% real automations. You send a prompt in, you get the response out. And that's all we actually need for the smart lead intake system we're going to be building today. On the right hand side, we have the AI agent block. So this is for more advanced use cases where the model needs to call tools, use memory, chain multiple steps together. So things like checking a calendar, calling an external API, or doing multi-step reasoning. It's very powerful, but it can sometimes be more complex and more expensive as well. So today I'm gonna keep it simple, and I'm sticking with a single message and model node for now. So by the way, most business automations are solved with a single, well-structured model call. So you don't always need a fancy agent. But what you can do, you can simplify the AI agent. As you can see underneath, I added OpenRouter chat model and Google Gemini. So just to show you that you're not kind of locked into OpenAI only, you can use multiple models within OpenRouter, you need to create an account. I think you are given some credits for free. I might be wrong there because I set it up some time ago. What you have here, you have a list of different models in one place. This is just gold. It just keeps my flows so much simpler and cleaner. I personally prefer working with OpenRouter chat models. It's convenient and you can scale fast as well. And that's a toolkit. So now let's have a look at the actual example which uses most of these nodes. So we are going to look at a smart lead intake system. So this is the flow I specifically built for this tutorial to show you that you can build these systems with a very limited number of nodes. So I already kind of mapped every single node into a right category we just discussed. So we have triggers, data transformation, flow control, connectivity and storage, AI and LLMs. So in my opinion, there are two types of people or two camps. The first group of people builds the flows from top to bottom, and the second one is building the flows from left to right. I actually belong to the second group. I think in this specific case, it was very appropriate to use the waterfall kind of flow, so you guys can easily read it and understand which nodes have been used where, in what category. So now let's switch the view and have a look at exactly the same flow, but this time around this flow has been built from left to right, so it's kind of more natural to me. So yeah, apologies guys if you belong to this first camp. So here's the summary of the workflow. A lead submits the form, then we check if this lead actually exists in our CRM database. If it's a new lead, we'll use AI to research their company and then classify him as low value, mid value or high value. If it's a high value lead, we're gonna get notified by Slack. All this information gonna be logged into our database. So first of all, let's fill in the form for the user who already exists in our database. Let's click on form submission and then execute the step. n8n form appears. Let's fill in the details, press submit. So the form has been submitted, and on the right hand side we can see the details of this person or the lead. Let's go back, let's press P and pin this data so we can run the flow. So the next thing we do, we actually normalize the data using set edit fields node. So let's open it. In here, on the left hand side, we have our input from the form. So name is with capital N. Every single field name starts with a capital letter, but we would like to make it database friendly and keep everything in small case. We changed the names of the fields, introduced new fields like created at. So this is when the form was submitted. Previous fields were strings only. However, this has marketing consent is a Boolean field. And also we have the array, which is a list of services, and as we can see, the array actually lives under the square brackets, so there are 3 items: AI strategy, automation builds, and reporting and dashboards. This is what the person actually selected. We have all the input information on the left hand side. We have manipulated the data in the middle section, so by changing the field names, adding additional fields, changing the data types, and introduced a new field like contact, which contains all the personal information. We can execute this step, and now we can see how our output data looks like. So we have input data on the left hand side, we have manipulated the data in the middle, on the right hand side we have the output data. And now I think I can run the entire thing. Let's do that. The flow actually worked as expected. So the next thing we wanted to check whether this lead actually exists in our CRM database. This is our spreadsheet, and we can see there is an email column. So the status is active, the name, the email address. So the next thing we do, we actually attach the information we have in our database to this lead. The information we have in our database is actually this status, tier, and lead score. Now we have one long row, and we have merged everything on email. We use the mode combine, and the input field 1 is the email from the form submission, and the input 2 is the email from the CRM database. So after merging the data, we would like to see if it's a new lead or an existing customer. So we have a filter over here, and if you go inside, we can see that there's a condition. So status should be empty for it to qualify as a new lead. But we can see on the left hand side that our status is actually active, meaning that this is not a new lead, this is in fact an existing customer. And that's why we would like to stop our flow over here. So now instead of using the on-form submission as we did last time, this time around we're going to be using a webhook and Postman. So in other words, this webhook is just an endpoint which expects the post HTTP request from Postman. So the first thing we need to do, we need to go to our lead webhook, double click on it, and enable listening. Then just click on listen for test event. So we can see it started listening, which is cool. Now we're gonna go to Postman, send this post request to our webhook. So let's send it. And it worked. As we can see, the data actually appeared on the right hand side in our output, which is cool. So let's just pin it for now, go back. So now let's run the entire flow. So happy days, the flow has run successfully. Now let's have a look at the nodes we haven't touched before. So first of all, we actually got to the analyze lead node, meaning that this is a new lead and we can double check that with our flow. So as you can see, there is one item. So on this branch, there is always a lead item coming. And in here, we didn't find any match because this branch is grayed out. So let's double check that. So we're gonna go to our CRM lookup and we can see there is no output data returned. So meaning that this email, richardbranson@virgin.com, didn't exist in our database. The flow actually moved further this time. So that was a new lead. The status field is actually empty now, which is good. So that's why we actually got to our AI node, which is analyze lead. So let's double click on it and see what's inside. So here we selected the OpenAI account. So you need to log in with your credentials first time you do it. So then I selected the 4.1 mini model, which is ideal for this sort of tasks. And in here we have our prompt. So you're a sales researcher, you receive B2B leads for an automation agency. So using the data below, classify whether this is a high value lead, mid value or low value, summarize who they are and what they want in 1-2 sentences. Here we're just asking it to provide a valid JSON with this shape, and then we provide the lead data as variables. So we have name, email, company, and message. So, and on the right hand side, we have the final version of a prompt. We can see that AI gave us a response, but it's a raw text. I want to structure this for my CRM. This is the perfect time to use the code node. So I use a simple JavaScript snippet here to add timestamp and format AI's output into more structured output for my CRM. I also added the lead score and whether a user is a high value or not. And if you are struggling with code, a ChatGPT or a Gemini or Claude can help you with coding a lot. So if you need to parse the text data, for example, these sort of tasks LLMs can do easily for you. So we have our value scores, we formatted the outputs. Now we're going to be using the switch node, which is over here. If the AI marked them as high value, we're going to send them a direct message on Slack. And if you're low value or mid value, we are not doing anything here at this stage. We're just logging this information into our database. And finally, the HTTP request node, which is this one over here. So I'm going to send it to Slack. I know guys, some of you would say it's a bad idea. Why would you do that? Because we already have a dedicated Slack node, which has been there for ages. And you're gonna be 100% right. But my point here is that by learning the HTTP node, this gives you like superpower because it works for everything. Discord, Telegram, custom CRMs. You can connect to anything you want. Let's open it. And as you can see, I use the method post. And I've provided my Slack incoming webhook over here, and then just send the JSON body like so. And now let's go to my Slack and see if this message actually has arrived. And this is the message we were waiting for. We've got the right name, the email, the message, so everything looks perfect. So, and just to be polite, I've added this wait node before we send any final email or Slack notification, so it doesn't look like a bot. Automation is a leverage game. Master these few nodes and you'll get the most of the results. So if this video was useful, please like it and subscribe so you don't miss the next n8n breakdown. You can download the exact workflow blueprint for free. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.